Welcome to the Midwest Blitz. It's college football comfort food for the Midwest soul. Now, here are your hosts, Coach Drew and Big Nick.
Welcome to another edition of the Midwest Blitz. It's a Week 14 recap, the last of the regular season with me and Big Nick. Yup.
Coach Drew, the college football season and the entire football season goes by way too fast. So before we get to our Big Ten and Notre Dame coverage and preview of the MAC championship game, we got to talk about the biggest news in college football today, which is the Lane Kiffin firing. Coach Drew, you want to lead me into this a little bit, or you just want me to jump into it?
Yeah, so Lane Kiffin. Oh, geez, man, I messed it up too as well.
Yeah, I know.
This guy led a team in Ole Miss in the SEC. Some might say the hardest conference to play in if you turn on ESPN every day. Paul Philbon will tell you that. The politician, Paul Philbon, everybody. Yeah, so Ole Miss is going to they are going to the college football playoffs. There's no doubt about it. But now they're going coachless, and some coaches are leaving. It's a real mess over there. But yeah, it's not good. He's going to LSU. Sorry, I was reading out what LSU stood for. Loser University.
Loser State University.
Yep. You can go ahead and give the fans a little bit more details about Lane Kiffin.
Okay, so as a sports fan, these are the stories that we don't enjoy covering on the Midwest Blitz, but we'd feel derelict not to do so today. So, all right, so Lane Kiffin's been at Ole Miss for 5 or 6 years, had a epic run there in terms of success for the university. They have a passionate fan base that has not always been the best. I'm an Indiana Hoosier fan. I'm experiencing untold success with my team right now in the football world. So I empathize with Ole Miss fans right now. Lane Kiffin's been there for, X amount of years. And I knew when all this talk started, all right, look, we don't trust SEC ESPN, Coach Drew. We don't trust C-SPAN. That's what Drew calls them. So when all these rumors started, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I was wrong. I was very wrong to do this. I have family from Tennessee. They were super pissed when he left the Volunteers to go to USC, where he then ended up fired on the runway. This guy is a bridge burner, Coach Drew. I think you'd agree with me on that. Give me a nod of the head or a shake of the head or a tap or yeah. So I kind of fell for Lane Kiffin's bullshit for a minute. Maybe it's because I believed in the magic of the Ole Miss Rebels season. I still think that Ole Miss Rebels defense is a little questionable, but nonetheless, they're an 11-1 SEC team, the second best conference in the country, maybe the first best conference if you're from south of the Mason-Dixon line. I think it's absolute bullshit that this guy ducked a press conference all day today. We were recording this on Sunday, the day that the announcement was scheduled. This feels like LeBron James leaving Cleveland, Coach Drew, which is really, really sad situation. I mean, I don't know if he's making $9 or $10 million a year at Ole Miss right now. It doesn't matter. The Ole Miss administration promised him, according to every report that I heard, that he's going to be offered the same amount of money to stay, or he had an option to go to LSU, where that is an absolute shit show. As we talked about here on the Midwest Blitz, you've got the governor of the state coming in, firing an athletic director with the Brian Kelly situation that just happened. I don't see how all right, we say this a lot, Coach Drew, here on the Midwest Blitz. I don't look at these coaching jobs the way a normal fan does. I look at it as an adult, what job would be most attractive. And I don't find it an attractive job to go somewhere where the governor's breathing down your neck and just fire an athletic director at the school that you're going to, being the Louisiana State University Tigers. Go Tigers. I don't understand how that's more attractive than being somewhere where they love you and want you to stay there. Now, after he ducked the media and his own team, by the way, for 6-7 hours after he was supposed to make an announcement, he told one of my favorite people from ESPN, Coach Drew, is Marty Smith. Marty Smith met him on a back road somewhere in Mississippi, where he explained to Marty from his Saturday morning show on ESPN on the radio. I won't bring that up. He explained to Marty that his mentors, Pete Carroll and Nick Saban, told him this is an opportunity that you just can't afford to turn down. Well, I got news for Lane Kiffin, Pete Carroll, and Nick Saban. Pete Carroll and Nick Saban are old. Saban ain't coaching no more. I'm not saying that they're better football coaches than I am. I'm not saying that they know less about football than I do. But what I do know, and what we've discussed here on the Midwest Blitz, is that the modern world of college football is different than 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even 2 years ago. This is not the same world where Indiana couldn't afford to pay Kurt Signet to stay there when Penn State wanted to steal him away. We could go over all kinds of other situations where Ole Miss would have been the little brother to Louisiana State University. But you know what, Coach Drew? That's not true anymore. It's not true. Lane Kiffin, who is a perpetual ship jumper, has jumped ship, and I think this is where his ship will sink, because he is going to become, and the LSU Tigers are going to become, more hated in the landscape of college football than any team has ever been in the history of mankind. You know why, Coach Drew? Because the media now is different. Everybody has watched this shit and nobody respects it, especially the fact that he held the university hostage and held his players hostage. And like I said at the beginning of my notes, I'm looking down at my notes so I don't lose my shit and just go off the rails. I thought Kiffin was going to stay potentially, despite his past behaviors. My God, I feel like I've been bamboozled. I'm not an Ole Miss fan, but I feel like I've been bamboozled by this guy. He will be the villain of the Southeastern Conference. LSU is like a battered housewife who just threw the drunk wife-beating husband out of the house, and Brian Kelly, not saying that Brian Kelly literally beat his wife or anything, but they were unhappy with a guy who was unloyal and wasn't doing a good job. And so what do? They go out and pay top dollar, king's ransom, to bring in another guy who will treat them the same way. Or you could turn it the other way around if any of the ladies were offended by that and say, oh, well, he's got to move on to the next trophy wife if you're LSU. The next trophy wife is Lane Kiffin. And did the last one get you a national championship? No. People have criticisms of Ed Orgeron, but I'll tell you what, Coach Drew, I love Ed Orgeron because he loves the state of Louisiana. Go Tigers. Now, he's got his personal issues, as do I, as does everybody, if they're being honest. Most people aren't very honest. I'm telling you, Coach Drew, this is a bad hire. This is not the guy or the situation. It's like somebody just got to have a bad relationship, and then the other person did also, and then they're like, oh, we should link up. This works so well. No, this is a powder keg waiting to happen. Now, I know Notre Dame friend Tyler told me that LSU might make the playoff this year and all this stuff. I knew that wasn't going to happen. This is going to be a lot of talent and a lot of good ingredients in a pot that gets overcooked. That's what I see happening. What do you think, Coach Drew?
Yeah, again, this is just one of those sad stories. I don't want Ole Miss to win the national championship, but that would be funny. I think that would be hilarious.
It would.
It's not going to happen, but who knows? That would be funny. We're rooting for the Big Ten and Notre Dame teams, but that's just one way of looking at it. Ole Miss does host LSU next year, ladies and gents, and guess what? This is a Midwest Blitz preview for Season 2 on the Midwest Blitz. We'll be covering that just for you guys because that's going to be a great week.
Hell yeah.
Maybe we can find some Ole Miss fans through our tree of network of friends
We'll host
to inform us.
We'll host a live event on the Rate Game app, hosted by Nick George. Shout out Nick George from the Rate Game app. Yeah, that's going to be some must-see TV, Mr. Clinic.
Now it's time to head over to Hate Week in the Big Ten. This is the week where you don't call your friend because it's Hate Week. You hate your friend, your neighbor. Hate Week. Go ahead, Nick.
So, at the start of Rivalry Hate Week, we have the Iowa Hawkeyes at Nebraska. Iowa took down Nebraska 40-16. This is a classic Iowa type win. Dominate line of scrimmage to end the season. Gronowski at quarterback, Moulton at running back. I call Kamari Moulton old reliable, dude. He's got his 14 for 70 or 16 for 80 or whatever, but he runs behind that strong Iowa offensive line led by Dunker and Jones. Just, the classic Iowa, let's control clock, let's beat you up front. Keaton Wheatgen had some sick fucking kick returns in this game. I mean, it's the core group of characters that you'd like to end the season as an Iowa fan. As I have become an Iowa fan throughout this season, the Midwest Blitz, as we say all the time. I love people from Iowa, and I definitely love Iowa Hawkeye fans now. Iowa Hawkeye defense was great despite early effort by my favorite Cornhusker, Emmett Johnson. Man, he busted a couple long ones early and really tried to carry the team on his back. With Dylan Raiola out, tough sledding for the freshman quarterback, Latif for Nebraska, but strong finish for Iowa, and I think Nebraska has good things going next year with the contract extension of Coach Matt Rule. I really think that was the right decision. Coach Drew, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Iowa being 8-4 to end the season, I think is really great. Nebraska 7-5, obviously it didn't go the way that they thought. This is the two teams that I thought at the beginning of the season would have a type an Indiana run last year, make it to the college football playoffs. Neither team will be there, but they're both bowl eligible. We will be previewing their bowl matchup, see who they play in. Guys, you'll hear me say this a lot. I need one of these teams to hit the Pop-Tart Bowl. I don't know who it is. I need one of them, maybe two of them. I tell people this. If Notre Dame, for whatever reason, does not make the college football playoffs, I need Notre Dame, Michigan, Pop-Tart Bowl. All right? I need this more than you think.
What about a Notre Dame, Iowa Pop-Tart Bowl? I kind of like to see that, Coach Drew. We're just kidding, folks. Notre Dame is going to make the college football playoff, as I've been predicting strongly for weeks, if not months.
As I say around here, better them than me. I've been non-biased. Quick side note of football, the Bears just took over the NFC North and have one of the easiest schedules to take that. So I've been non-biased about that. I said, how many more wins could the Bears get against backup quarterbacks? So if you want a true, honest person, it's me. But we're going to beat the Packers. It's hate week in the NFL too this week. But let's get to another one that's an in-state rival. Now, this was, some might say, a home game for Indiana at West Lafayette. We had some ground coverage. Nick, go ahead and take it away.
Boots on the ground here on the Midwest Blitz. Number 2 ranked Indiana Hoosiers in the country won 56-3 over the hosting Purdue Boilermakers. On senior night at Ross-Ade Stadium, Indiana kicked the door in and had a party in West Lafayette and made the house their own. Roman Hemby had 12 carries for 152 yards. Omar Cooper, 3 catches for 64 yards and a touchdown. All-American linebacker and future NFL All-Pro linebacker, I'm telling you right now. 7 tackles led the Hoosiers. Amari Farrell, All Big Ten pre-conference and preseason All-Safety. You guys get that joke if you've been here long enough. Had 7 tackles, he had an interception. And Elijah Surratt and Drew Evans, the offensive lineman who have been out for a few weeks, are both back. They look healthy now and ready to take on the Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship game next week. Coach Drew, I will say this, the hospitality from Purdue was great. We parked on the east side of the stadium at a frat house for $60. Best parking ever in West Lafayette. I think they had a zoning issue where they wouldn't allow you to park within 5 miles of the stadium last time I went up there. So it's pretty nice that they allowed some capitalism to happen, allowed us to just drop a few cash bones and park right across the street from the stadium before we went over there. It was kind of touching that they did senior night and they presented Devin Mockabee first. Now, I am an Indiana fan and Coach Drew is a Notre Dame fan, and we don't like Purdue that much, but it was, they played some special music and they showed Devin Mockabee on the board, and I was like, man, it sucks that he got hurt in his senior year. He is a great representative of Purdue University, engineering major.
He stayed for the rebuild.
He did. And I think that makes him a Purdue legend in my book. Despite the rivalry letters last week, I enjoyed the hospitality at Purdue, and I look forward to Indiana taking on the Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship game this coming week.
What would you, if you're Purdue, what do you do in the offseason to fix this mess? I think they won 1 game last year. Now they won 2 games this year. Again, against SCS schools or lower competition. How do you fix this?
So, me and my Indiana friends that I went with, we talked about this. Purdue does not have the NIL support to have a Power 4 football team right now. Purdue has one of the best basketball.
Didn't they get to the moon? How do they not have money?
apparently getting the moon coach true doesn't involve an ability to balance a checkbook or raise money, although that is a great question. You would think that the most brilliant
Balancing checkbooks, that's at Indiana. That's right. That makes sense. Kelly's business. I got you. All right, so continue. How do you fix this problem at Purdue?
You need to hire some accountants from the Kelly School of Business. I got a list for you guys. You ain't competing in Power 4 football if you don't figure out a way to raise some fucking money. And look, if anybody is the proof positive concept of this, now, Drew, the Purdue fans already turned this show off because they can't take a joke or any constructive criticism. Your basketball team's doing well. You have a great basketball program. You have one of the best basketball coaches in the country, even though you guys don't realize it. You need to go to Indiana, find somebody that shows you how to raise NIL money. Money doesn't actually fall off trees, but ask and you shall receive, as the good book says, and somebody might send you some money because you're not going to be able to compete even with a good coach in Barry Odom. I do believe that Barry Odom's a good coach. I've said that all year. Drew, I don't think I've said anything negative about Barry Odom all year. But, dude, you're not going to get athletes to compete. Even Indiana, even my Hoosiers found a way to compete at the highest level, but you ain't doing it without any money. Coach Drew, that was wonderful.
You're welcome. I just keep it going. Well, with that being said, there's a game that we have to sneak in here just because it's funny to me. My family's from Austin, Texas now. We've got roots in there. Sometimes you might hear me say it. I don't talk about it enough. Texas did beat Texas A&M. That does play a role in our college football playoffs. There's a guy holding a sign, and it's almost like when there was an accident at work. Well, it says how many days since Texas A&M beat Texas, and it was over 5,000. The fun thing about rivalry weeks, and this is going to lead into the big one, we talk about the game, but the fun thing to talk about it, when Texas A&M left to go to SEC, right, it was a big thing. They said, we're not playing Texas no more. Ironically, Texas then goes to the SEC, gets recruited. Texas A&M goes, we don't want you in here. Well, the SEC scheduled them. They played. Austin was crazy. Marcel Reed, clutch broke down. Heisman Trophy fumbled. It was bad. But hook 'em. That's going to be my hook 'em. My only hook 'em I got in at the end of the year. Nick will be proud of me. I didn't do that the whole year. So don't shoot the messenger. I do like an SEC school. But to be fair, they were part of the Big 12 for a long time, okay?
Somebody said, Coach Drew, this is like you haven't seen your big brother for 5 years, 10 years, and then he shows up and dunks your head in the toilet. It's a tough spot to be if you're the Texas A&M Aggies. I really kind of had faith in the Aggies, but dude, Arch Manning looked like Peyton Manning the other day. He was throwing darts, man. That's the best Arch Manning has played all year, without a doubt. And somehow, like you said, Marcel Reed, who I adopted as my boy this year, I was like, whoa, Marcel Reed is not playing like Marcel Reed. Dang, Arch Manning can't get us team to playoffs, but he could take down little brother.
One of my quotes that my dad did, because we were watching some of the games, my dad said, man, Eli and Peyton must have took Arch Manning to the backyard during Thanksgiving and showed him how to call some football plays and whooped his ass. I think that's true. I could totally see Peyton and Eli being like, this is how you call an audible. You see that right there? You see Eli? That's called a blitz. You need to call an audible there. And I just thought that was hilarious. But
have you guys observed anyone watching the show? You watched Texas play this year, and maybe you caught a glimpse of one of my childhood heroes, Peyton Manning, sitting in the stands watching his nephew. And, of course, Peyton's not up there joking around because he's there to watch the game, just like I would be. Not that I'm Peyton Manning, but I love him, and he loves football, so I feel some kind of kindred spirit there. And he sits there in the stands while Arch is playing, and he just stares like a disappointed father sometimes when it's going on. Yeah, so Drew might have a point. Dude, you don't want Uncle Peyton come down there to spank your ass in Thanksgiving football.
No, I bet you the Turkey Bowl was not fun. They were just probably watching film the whole time. And I don't even think Arch Manning was able to eat Thanksgiving dinner because they're like, you're doing so bad.
Here's some cottage cheese and popcorn. You're cutting weight, and you're out here to throw footballs.
They're grabbing the Hawaiian rolls, and they're setting up defensive packages. They're like, all right, you have these Hawaiian rolls are going to be the two deep safeties. What's your check down here? What's
This
the
is the
audible?
Sam, this is the Mike. Or is it? Which is the Sam, which is the Mike? Yeah.
They have 8 in the box, but they haven't blitzed all game. What do? These are real life
Ooh,
situations.
100%.
I like how every time he runs with the football before we get to the game, I like how every time he runs with the football, they're like, oh, well, you could tell he's Cooper's son. And they always allude to like how they're trying to make him not a quarterback anymore. They're always like, ooh, he's fast. Ooh, he could do this. They're almost like trying to like say that he can't be Eli or Peyton. And they do these like little, like, if you pay attention, like little blows, they're like, oh, look at him run. He's just like Cooper. Eli and Peyton Manning's brother. You can tell they're not him, but what they're really saying is he can't play quarterback, but that's not good for the brand. So, just wanted to throw that little niche in there. I don't know if people are catching that, but I
God,
caught
you
it.
had to bring that up. Did you see his, he's got some perfume commercial or cologne. Sorry, I said perfume.
No, I didn't.
It's not
It's
the
a doozy.
best look when you were the leading candidate for the Heisman. I love Peyton Manning. I like Eli Manning. I hope that Arch Manning does well. But let's move on to the Big Ten. You're cracking me up too much with this. Who played in the Big Ten this weekend?
Well, we had the game where Ohio State, who's 12-0, is playing against the world, as everybody doesn't think they're a good football program. We're just going to look at each other. Played the Michigan Wolverines.
So we had the game, the ultimate rivalry in all of North American sports, possibly, definitely in college sports. Number 1 Ohio State at Michigan, number 1 versus number 15. The Buckeye defense rules the day here, Coach Drew, especially in the second half. They kept Michigan out of the end zone the whole game, but early in the game, the Wolverines moved the ball with the running game. The other Bo Jackson, as I will always refer to him unless he decides to go by Lamar again, had a conversation about that in the rate game app. Had 22 carries for 117 yards. He really has been the workhorse in this Buckeye backfield coming down the back stretch of the season. I expect to see him have a lot of carries against the Hoosiers in the Big Ten championship game next week. Cardinal Tate, 5 catches for 82 yards, looking healthy. This is big time for the Buckeyes to get a healthy Cardinal Tate. I thought he moved well. I thought he looked comfortable. Like, going into the game, I thought he was the key to victory for Ohio State, honestly, or at least the key to them winning comfortably. I thought Cardinal Tate looked good. I thought he moved well. I thought he broke down, like chop, 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 ran routes well. Sonny Styles led with 6 tackles. Sonny Lorenzo Styles, probably my 2 favorite Buckeyes. Nothing against Jeremiah Smith, Cardinal Tate, or the other Bo Jackson, but love the Styles brothers for their charitable contributions there in the Columbus area. This sets us up for a big-time showdown in the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis. Michigan Mitch, I think that Ryan Day fixed his GPS because he found his way back to Indianapolis. Coach Drew, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was not shocked. The snow was flurrying. I don't know how many penalty misconducts there were. This game, okay, once Ohio State was up, let me say that. This game matters for both teams. Once Ohio State was up,
for sure,
they were trying to remind them that they will be playing in the Big Ten championship next week. Let's not get any slap on the wrist fouls there. So they get suspended for the next week. I guess Ryan Day didn't let them plant it's Ohio State against the world flag. There was some stuff there. Apparently, Ryan Day doesn't believe in plant flagging.
can I step in there, Coach Drew? I saw when I always watch the coaches shake hands at the end of the game, because I used to coach high school and because I'm a ref and because I'm a weirdo, I guess, but I'm always interested in the interactions, and they stopped and had like a pretty cordial smile and exchange, and I saw Ryan Day look at Sherrone Moore, and he shook his head and smiled, and then I took it as, we're not going to pull any bullshit today. We're not going to have a repeat of what happened last year with the fist fight. Coach Drew, if you've known me long enough, you realize nobody enjoys a little wanton destruction and carnage as I do. But after a game, you got to go back to the locker room. the fight last year is not something I want to see repeated. So I appreciate the coaches and the administration from stopping them from doing anything to put a black eye on the great game of football. There's already enough mommies out there and enough pussies out there that want to stop us from playing contact sports and make baseball players wear full helmets in the infield like little girls playing softball. We don't want that here on the Midwest Blitz, but the boys have to go out there and be boys. And then when the game's over, take it like a man when you lose. So I was happy to see the sportsmanship. I think that the coaches and the administrations represented after the game. Yeah, I think Sherrone Moore, I like what I saw out of him, even though they lost. He was 2-0 against the Buckeyes. But something I noticed about him was that when the game was tight, like middle 2 quarters, he looked cool as a cucumber. And I was like, oh, this guy, he's game for this. And even though they lost, see the whatever Jim Harbaugh saw, whatever the administration saw when they hired him and gave him this job, I was like, oh, that's it. He ain't scared. He ain't scared at all, and he'll be back ready next year. I thought that was pretty great. Can I say something else about Bryce Underwood, your favorite quarterback in the Big Ten, Coach Drew?
Yeah, I don't need an apology for what was said earlier, but you can go on.
I feel like Michigan needs to adjust their passing strategy to fit with the running game that they have. The running game's been good. I don't think their offensive line was quite as good this year, or defensive line. But, dude, Bryce Underwood is legit in terms of his arm and ability to move and set his feet. I just think that he needs better player development in terms of, they babied him too much at the beginning of the year and didn't let him throw the ball. And they need to tie, okay, so for those of you who haven't coached or haven't been obsessed with football since they came out of the womb like I have, the kid's got zip. The kid's thrown some great balls, especially in the last few weeks of the season. But you can't go from giving him a run pass option to then having him do a 5-step drop against one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in America from the Buckeyes, and expect him to just sit back there and pick him apart like he's a pro quarterback, because he's not. He's just a freshman. It doesn't matter how much money you paid him. So they need to set him up in the offseason with a better quarterback or a new offensive coordinator or a new passing game coordinator. Dude, there's a lot of guys out there that know a lot more than I do about football. I recognize that. They need to recognize that what they did in the passing game for Bryce Underwood this year didn't set him up to be as successful as his ceiling could be. And next year, the pressure's going to be on this kid. You got to help him out. You paid him a lot of money.
Yeah, being 9-3, you know it's a rivalry game. When you lose to an opponent that is playing in the Big Ten championships, is now undefeated, they want to fire more. I saw some fire more chants in some of the comments.
Yeah.
You know, it's not fun. One of the other things too with Bryce Underwood, some of the concepts, I'm gonna rewatch that game again. I watched it once. I want to go through some more film. One of the things that I think they're not doing well is they're making it too simple. They're not doing enough emotions to let him read what the defense is in a zone or man. I think they're just setting him up and they're doing the 2 clap clap and then they hand the ball off and the defense stops it. And then everyone's like, what? Because they've already said they're going to run the ball 100 times. There wasn't and some of the tree concepts, the separations. Now, okay, that does not take away. There's probably Michigan probably has really good wide receivers compared to other teams. The problem is you're going against the number 1 defense in the land, Ohio State.
Yeah.
One of them, right?
Absolutely.
And it's hard, and I get that. Bryce Underwood, like you said, there's so many people that they need to bring in to help Bryce Underwood. Bryce Underwood looked like he was not ready for this. And this was game 12 or 13. We talk about when it gets late in the season, you're basically a sophomore. And at the end of the season, from the beginning of the season, when I was hypercritical, when I was very critical, and a lot of people were mad at me.
You were pretty critical, Coach Drew. You were.
And, well, I do stand corrected. So don't shoot the messenger, or in this case, don't shoot your Drew. All right?
You never
What?
want to don't shoot Coach Drew. We love Coach Drew. He's the best. He's half the Midwest Blitz. He might be more than half. He might be my better half here on the Midwest Blitz.
Oh, don't say that. Michigan did qualify, though, for a bowl game. It's one of the qualifiers.
Dude,
I think this offseason,
Michigan.
maybe they go to Ole Miss, Penn State. I mean, there's going to be places where they can go poach some wide receivers. USC, if Lincoln Riley leaves,
Okay,
who
they
knows?
definitely need some wide receivers to help him. I didn't want to diss. I was about to say the kid's name. I wasn't going to diss wide receiver they had there, who is a local kid from Indy. But yeah, better wide receivers. But dude, the passing game concepts. I think, Drew, what you just said, not to drag this game out too long, so we all know what happened. Ohio State took it over. Michigan had negative rushing yards in the second half, if I recall correctly. If not, I'm not off by wrong. Michigan fans, please roast me if I'm wrong. Let us know in the comments. We love the fans because they tell us when we're wrong, and we do appreciate it. If we're not wrong and you tell us we're wrong, then we are going to clap back at you, but we appreciate it. That's the fun of doing the show. Yeah, having better receivers. You have to tie your running game concepts, especially when you're run heavy. You have to tie them to passing game concepts that look conceptually the same on the snap of the football, which is something I'll try and do a whiteboard video or like a coaching video if we're in the off season. But hey, Buckeyes run that shit right now. 2000 whatever days is over. No rooting interest here, although I am happy to see my Hoosiers get a shot at Ohio State. You guys can make fun of me about that in the comments. If Indiana gets their ass kicked by Ohio State, I asked for it and I wanted it. I promise you that. You want to go to
Just give this man a
Seattle,
chance.
Seattle, Washington, Coach Drew?
Yeah. Another team that is also bowl eligible is Washington. They're 8-4, and they're playing Oregon, or hosting Oregon, 11-1, who actually just moved up in the college football AP poll. So I messed that up a little bit. They moved up in the AP poll. They moved to 4. We're assuming they're going to move up in the college football playoffs too as well to that 4. Their only loss is to Indiana. But man, this game. Let's break it down, Nick. What did you see in this game?
So the Oregon Ducks, in an old school Pac-12 showdown, played the Washington Huskies. Ducks absolutely confirm and secure a college football playoff spot here. I only say that to say that there were some dumbasses that were like, what if somebody lost? Oregon get bounced out. I don't know. That's tabloid sports journalism. The Oregon Ducks are obviously have obviously been in the college football playoff, but Oregon has not had healthy wide receivers most of the season, especially in this game. If they get Decorian Moore and Gary Bryant back at wide receiver, they might be the most unexpected tough out in the college football playoff. They've been playing with bare bones at wide receiver, despite having Kenyon Sadiq at wide receiver. At tight end. Kenyon Sadiq at tight end doesn't change the fact that your number one receiver blew his knee out in fall camp. And then Decorian Moore, five-star that cashed in, Coach Drew. Decorian Moore was great before he got injured. And then Gary Bryant really stepped in. They've had receivers step up, and their offensive line and their front seven has been absolutely nails. There's a misconception about the Ducks, and I said this going into the Iowa game. This is not a finesse football team. Dan Lanning does not run a finesse program. They are punch you in the mouth up front first, and then razzle dazzle second. And they've proven this more than anything. I would bet you $1 if I was a betting man, Coach Drew, or a few more dollars or a few $1,000s or whatever you're willing to wager, when Dan Lanning hears all this shit about, they think we're soft, they think we can't win without healthy wide receivers and all this, that's what's on their bulletin board. I would promise you anything. So Oregon continues to impress with physicality more so than anything. And Washington gave it their best effort in this. But you know what? They got out Coach Drew. Damon Williams, the quarterback for Washington, who I've loved all year, Washington tried to run a naked bootleg, and Damon Williams, the all-star quarterback for Washington, got absolutely hammered before he even turned his head around. The Oregon Ducks are not a finesse football team. As we just said, they've been playing without their best wide receivers and still grinding games out against teams like Iowa. I know some of you guys don't know ball, so you think that having a close game against Iowa is something to criticize. If you think that, then just turn the show off. That's not the truth. Oregon has been able to capitalize on their physicality to get where they are right now, especially the last 4 or 5 games. I love Dan Lanning, the Oregon Ducks, and winning at Washington Husky Stadium, Coach Drew, proves why we call him the road dog here on the Midwest Blitz. Dan Lanning is a dog of the highest order. Love Dan Lanning. Love the Ducks. I hope their wide receivers get healthy before the playoff. You know what I hate most about postseason play is when a team is missing key players and then they face a good opponent and lose, and then they get judged on that in the eyes of the casual observer.
What about head coaches?
Same with head coaches, right, Coach Drew?
Yeah. What if their head coaches leaves when they go to the playoffs? That'd be devastating. Could you imagine?
I never thought I'd say this, but I'm halfway rooting for Ole Miss after what just happened with Lane Kiffin. If you guys didn't see the beginning of the show, we talked about how we don't approve of what Lane Kiffin just did, leaving Ole Miss to go to LSU. Go back to the beginning of the show if you're just watching a clip. Coach Drew, here's a classic Big Ten old school rivalry. We had the battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. Wisconsin lost to Minnesota 17-7 in a cold and snowy stadium at Minnesota. This is the perfect setting for this rivalry game where PJ and the rowing the boat Gophers get to keep Paul Bunyan's axe for another year. Total yardage-wise, Wisconsin outgained Minnesota 268-218, but in the turnover battle, the Gophers won 3-0. I mean, turnovers win football games more than any other stat in football now. Creating turnovers can be difficult, but the Gophers did it. Hey, my guy, Darius Taylor, 19 carries for 100 yards, Coach Drew. In August, we were talking about how much I love Darius Taylor. He's been injured on and off throughout the year. I think his injury cost him the game at Cal earlier in the year. Good to see Taylor get it going on the ground. Devin Easter on defense had a big tackle for loss, the big old boy defensive tackle. One of my favorites. Jamison Gears at tight end had 4 catches for 27 yards and a touchdown. Jamison Gears kind of tore the Badgers up last year, and he did it again this year, at least with the touchdown pass. Player of the game, though, might be John Nestor for Minnesota. 2 timely interceptions on the part of Mr. Nestor. So, I mean, I guess I give player of the game to Taylor. I like to give it to a defensive guy or lineman if I can, though. But shout out to Nestor, shout out to Taylor. PJ Fleck and the boys in on a solid note. Might get a solid bowl game. Might get to play an SEC team. Might get to beat up on somebody south of Mason-Dixon line, which we enjoy here on the Midwest Blitz.
Yeah, that is the 7th team that we have now mentioned that is bowl eligible. Again, we're covering all these teams throughout the playoffs and or bowl season. A 7-5 Minnesota team, very devastating that when their running back was out, it was a very different team.
Yeah.
That was Nick's early. As I said, we picked teams who have a Indiana run, which now the bar, again, has been set higher now for what that means. We might have to change it to another team name now. But yeah, I mean, Wisconsin was on a run where they beat Washington, they beat Illinois. If they win this game, they wouldn't have been bowl eligible, but they would have won a rivalry game, a border game. They would have took it to Minnesota. That would have been great, but unfortunately that ends. Hopefully next year when the Big Ten unravels their whole scheduling and everything, Wisconsin doesn't get the short end of the stick and they can have some better success. But I'm sure they learned a lot through this gauntlet because they even played Alabama, so that was interesting. But they play Notre Dame next year, so I hate to.
Yeah, that's a good non-con game where you've got 9 Big Ten games. But yeah, Wisconsin's been decimated by quarterback injuries. As I said last week, I'm not sure that the offense they installed is going to work. I also question how your quarterback gets hurt 3 years in a row and 2 or 3 quarterbacks injured this year. I said the same thing when Michael Penix was at Indiana. When the kid blows his knee out 2 or 3 years in a row, and then he shows up to Big Ten Media Day the next year, and they ask him if he changed his training regimen, and he said, "No, I'm healthy now." And I was like, well, that makes no sense. And then he got hurt again. That's the genius of what modern sports science has allotted to coaches that are willing to read and learn, is that working out more and training more is not better. You keep your athletes healthy. It's not volume. Volume exercise is for bodybuilders. It's not for explosive athletes like football players and baseball players, certainly. Sorry, is that a side night, Coach Drew, that I shouldn't have went on? But, I mean, it's absolutely true.
It is. We see it every day in the weight room.
Absolutely. I would never train an athlete the way that I was trained when I was playing high school sports, and I've studied it over the last 20 years, and high-level programs don't train athletes to run them to death like a rented mule. That's not what you do. That might be a lot of shade I just threw at Wisconsin. That wasn't intentionally meant to demean Wisconsin, but when you have a lot of injuries, I would say a thing about Tom Allen was the coach in Indiana. I love Tom Allen, former high school coach in Indiana. That dude, they were constantly injured, Coach Drew, constantly injured all over the field. And so you start putting 2 and 2 together. It's like more workouts, longer practice, not necessarily better. I'm not one of these guys that says we shouldn't hit anybody. I mean, if we're not going to hit anybody, we shouldn't play football.
Well, I just got an email. I just got an email from the Midwest Blitz.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, the email is from the University of Wisconsin. They said that they are now not sending their variety of cheeses to us because of your comments. So thank you for blowing that for us, because you said
for the Christmas party, for the Midwest Blitz Christmas party, which you guys are all invited to, by the way.
Now you messed with the cheese.
God damn it, Drew. I'm sorry. Son of a bitch. Right. Hey, can we go to the birthplace? That's a good transfer. Not a transfer. Well, I was going to say transfer portal.
There's a lot of that going on. Well, this game actually did have some meaning to it. The winner of this will become bowl eligible. One team did, but I will say this: one team was also supposed to be in the national championship this year, but they just squeaked in being bowl eligible, and that is the Penn State coachless at this moment of Sunday night. Everybody's getting a coach. Even Michigan State got their coach, possibly of Fitzgerald. We'll be covering that and all the changes coming up soon on the Midwest Blitz.
Spoiler alert.
Let's get to it.
Penn State Nittany Lions at the birthplace of college football, Piscataway, New Jersey, to take on the Scarlet Rutgers.
Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Correct, Nick. That's who they took on. Go ahead.
We don't have to timestamp that, right? Nobody cares about this part. Penn State beats Rutgers 40-36. The Nittany Lions outlast the Scarlet Knights in what was kind of a shootout, at least at the beginning of the game. Lions now bowl eligible at 6-6. It would be really nice for Penn State, and I say this in all honesty and sincerity, if they knew who their new head coach would be going into the bowl game, because that's when a new coach gets to meet his players, decide who he wants to keep, decide who could go to the portal and all these things, especially when you're 6-6. But firing James Franklin as early as they did in the season, I think all the football people I've talked to agree that was a mistake, that letting him go as early as they did, despite how disappointing the start of the season was for Penn State, ranked in the top 2, top 3, top 5 in the season by every poll, was a mistake. And now you're in a situation where any good players you have back are eligible for transfer portal. They don't even have a coach to commit to or anyone willing to go in there and sell them on staying at Penn State, which is a great football school. and a great Midwestern football town in general. Katron Allen, 22 carries for 226 yards and a touchdown. I think my prediction on this game was that Penn State would run for well over 200 yards and win the game. But what I didn't expect was my boy, Ethan Kaliak-Manis, quarterback for Rutgers, most underrated quarterback in the Big Ten. 16 out of 22 for not 238 yards, 16 out of 22 for 338 yards, Kaliak-Manis. If this kid doesn't get an NFL tryout, just stop having tryouts. NFL scouts, if you have not watched Ethan Kaliak-Manis, kid's got an arm, kid's smart, kid reads. His best receiver, Ian Strong, was hurt on and off throughout the whole season. Kaliak-Manis is a dude. Katron Allen, also a dog. Dude, Katron Allen, I'm not sure. Nick Singleton had like 9 carries for 80 or 90 yards. Nothing against Nick Singleton. I felt like Nick Singleton has been limited by some kind of injury this year just because of the volume of carries between him and Katron Allen, which I expected to be the best backfield in the country this year, which Notre Dame has been the best backfield in the country, Coach Drew. You know that I feel that way, and fans of the Midwest Blitz also feel that. Dude, Ethan Kaliak-Manis, 16 out of 22 for 338 against this Nittany Lions secondary. This Nittany Lions secondary is nothing to sneeze at, man. Kaliak-Manis he's a man. I'm pretty sure he's a senior. Dude, he needs to be in camp with somebody.
That's true. I mean, I've seen quarterbacks make the NFL way less. I mean, if not, he's definitely going to be promoted to probably an offensive coordinator or something, or scout, at least something, where he's going to be part of a team. I mean, that's the nature of the game. Sometimes, if you look at Rutgers, they had a running back there last year who's now dominating with the Bears. So don't count out the Rutgers offense for having little gems.
Well, now you may feel bad because Raymond, the running back for Rutgers, had a huge game too, and I forgot to write his numbers down. But yeah, the running back and quarterback for Rutgers are both definitely worthy of an NFL tryout. The running back needs to just get drafted. Antoine Raymond.
Yeah. Well, before we get to the only game that was not had a qualifying bowl-eligible team or even playing for one, I just want to mention that UCLA lost to USC 29-10. Nothing changed there. And Lincoln Riley, just a quick update, did not complain about the drive because they were hosting. And if UCLA was playing, he would have to complain about the drive because it would be at the same stadium. So literally, this is the one game Lincoln Riley cannot complain about driving anywhere because it's the same damn stadium. Now moving on to Michigan State versus Maryland. We have two teams that are 4-6, middle of the pack, or end of the season 4-6, I should say. Where do we go? Maryland, interesting start of the season, fizzled out at the end. Michigan State, possibly going up, might have their guy in Fitzgerald if the rumors are true. What do you see in this? What are we thinking?
Well, before you spoiled my introduction to this game, Coach Drew, I was going to save the Pat Fitzgerald news for last, but Sparty might have a new head coach. The rumors about Jonathan Smith as the head coach of Michigan State have not resolved themselves over the last few weeks. I think Pat Fitzgerald would be a great fit for Michigan State. Michigan State is a punch you in the mouth type of fan base, very like blue collar, hard edge, which I enjoy. It's a team that I had high hopes for at the beginning of the season. Aiden Childs got benched by Smith. The new quarterback, Alisio Milosevic, had 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. But I guess the real news here is neither team bowl eligible. Dude, I think Michigan State fans will love Pat Fitzgerald. I really do. If in fact that news is true, and Coach Drew said it's true, so if it's not, he owes me a case of beer, but I'm pretty sure it is true, Midwest Blitz fans.
Well, while you're saying that, we're going to look it up. Let's see.
It
just says target. One says he's hired. So I guess...
it's a perfect fit, Sparty. Sparty fans, I'm telling you, you'll love Pat Fitzgerald like you love fresh sheets in a hotel room or, a free all-you-can-eat buffet. It's, yeah. When you told me that, I was like, that makes so much sense. Pat Fitzgerald, Michigan State. There's no, what do you call someone who's hoity-toity that has not high expectations, but somebody who's too fancy. They don't want a cheeseburger. They want filet mignon or whatever. That's not Michigan State fans. They want the punch you in the mouth coach, and that's Pat Fitzgerald. I think Pat Fitzgerald is an absolute legend. As far as I'm aware, he won his lawsuit with all the allegations of him sponsoring ridiculous hazing, which I doubted the whole time. As far as I'm aware,
one of the things, people are already making columns about him being hired at Michigan State. They're like, "Oh, Lane Kiffin, he's and all this craziness." Well, this guy just hired. Well, this is the thing. We're not taking low fruit. Okay, Michigan State did their homework. Michigan State is an institution that between Michigan and Michigan State, they're both very smart institutions. They're not just going to go hire somebody that has a subjective background that's like that. It's just low-hanging fruit. Yeah, he was a part of something. You know what? Guess what? You want to hear something else? Joe Quenneville from the Blackhawks, who's also caught in a similar scandal, who was let go by Chicago. Guess what? He's coaching again because he didn't know about the stuff that was happening in the locker room or in the training physical room. Some of those things that happen in the background, it's ridiculous. Is it unfortunate? Yes, it is unfortunate. We're not downplaying this. But again, just read. Some people just jump to conclusions too fast, and it's really sad.
I agree. And like I said, Fitzgerald, Northwestern linebacker legend and coach, led the Wildcats to the Rose Bowl as a player at linebacker and team captain in '95. I'd be really excited to see him get a Big Ten coaching job, especially. I've been waiting for this for a few years. Yeah, it's if you want your kids to be pampered babies, then you ban people like Pat Fitzgerald from coaching. I don't think that he was sponsoring this story of, I don't know, something about players being tied up naked or something crazy. I'm not making that
Yeah, it
up.
was a
That's just
lot.
what I read. Dude, no coach with a brain is sponsoring that. And he's the coach at Northwestern. He's a Northwestern graduate. Do you think he's that stupid? It's ridiculous. I think that some soft people that ran the school ran him off because they didn't like him. And I've seen this done at other schools, and I've seen it attempted at other schools. So I hope
the
it's
first is not
true.
the last.
What about Coach Drew? Can we do the Land of Lincoln Trophy? I know this is a game, the Battle of Illinois.
The battle for Illinois.
The Battle of Illinois. Coach Drew's family lineage resides with this game, and we were really looking forward to it. And I was lucky to catch the end of it.
Closer than you think.
Closer than you think. Well, the Northwestern Wildcats, as I've been sponsoring Coach Braun all year as being one of the best coaches in the Big Ten, they lost 13-20 against Illinois. The Illini hold on to Abe's trophy hat in a fantastic old school Big Ten slugfest. Little snow flurry, little cold, little frost on the field. On the Rate Game app, a random fan who was not a fan of either one of these teams was like, "This is Big Ten football. This is what we want to see in rivalry week." And he was absolutely right. Khalil Valentine had 14 carries for 74 yards. And Luke Altmaier wins on senior night, Coach Drew. We love to see that. Luke Altmaier, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the country to watch. Absolute baller, absolute dude that you would want to be on a team with. Illinois won the turnover battle 4-1, Coach Drew. And as we said earlier, turnover battle is the biggest stat in football. But Coach Braun's Wildcats have a lot to be proud of, and they've had a great year, in my opinion. The over-under for them going into the season was 3.5, I think. They end at 6-6. They're bowl eligible. Now, Coach Drew, the real question here is who will Bielema get to play in the bowl game? Because I want to see some big boy Bielema shenanigans. I want to see the shit talk, and I want to see them play an SEC team. I really, really do. I'd like to see Wildcats play an SEC team also, just so they can see how we play defense north of the Mason-Dixon line. Some of these SEC teams don't always play a lot of defense. I'm not talking about the best teams in the conference. I'm not talking about Alabama and Georgia, but they think, I hear
Or
these
actual
comments.
officiating.
Actual officiating. Well, that, I don't know. That could be questionable. Not to question my Zebra brothers, but yeah, it's all these people say, oh, Indiana, USC, and Oregon struggled to beat Iowa in comments and conversations with SEC fans. And it's like, you haven't watched Iowa play all year. You didn't watch any of these games. Even if my friends from Iowa, you understand what we're saying here. We love Iowa. I love people from Iowa. Coach Drew loves people from Iowa, although he does not love people from Kansas. But these people see a score when you play Iowa and the game's close, and they question the top teams in the Big Ten because they didn't win by 3 touchdowns. It's like, yeah, they didn't win by 3 touchdowns because Iowa plays defense just like Northwestern does. This is not run and gun 7-on-7 football. This is defense first, running game first. I don't think people understand that. I think they understand it about Ohio State because they're a brand name that everybody knows and trusts, but Indiana is a run-first football team. They are. Kurt Cignetti's a run-first coach, and then they have a good quarterback and good receivers that they pair that with, but they don't understand in the Big Ten, you do have to run the ball and you do have to play defense at the line of scrimmage. So I would love to Northwestern and Illinois get to play a team south of the Mason-Dixon line so they can see it's not easy to throw the ball and score 40 points because the other team's not playing defense. I would like to see that.
You know, Cooper DeJean, he got an interception in the Super Bowl, went to Iowa. You know, TJ Watt is blowing up offensive linemen.
He's got
University
more
of
sacks.
Wisconsin.
He's got more sacks than JJ now in the NFL.
Also Wisconsin. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So don't be sleeping. You hate us?
Because you ain't us.
Which is who we're going to cover next.
Boy, Coach Drew.
This is the game where we prove to you that we can beat another low-dwell ACC team. Our schedule's weak. Blah, blah, blah. Well. We ran the gauntlet and went 10-2. Do we make the college football playoffs? By the way, I'm talking about Notre Dame because no one else. You should have known that by the time I said that because everybody's talking about us. We're the hottest thing. You know, it's kind of like, it reminds me on YouTube, similar to what we're on, where you say something clickbaity. You know, Notre Dame is a trademark, so I hope all you people that are using them in a negative sense are helping them drive all that extra money so we could use it again to get your transfer portal wide receivers. Looking at you, SEC and ACC and all these other places. Watch out, haters.
Because you ain't us. The number 9 CFP ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish won 49-20 against the Stanford Tree. They are the Tree or whatever Stanford calls themselves. I was happy to see Aeneas Williams get 10 carries for 83 yards in this game, Coach Drew. Play of the game, defensive back Luke Talich, playing on the punt team, caught a long fake punt in this game. It was pretty sick. Also, while I was watching the game at 1 a.m., because that's what you have to do to work on the Midwest Blitz, is you got to stay up all night watching football. Don't punish me with a good time. But Frank Reich, the genius interim head coach for Stanford, continued to throw the ball at Leonard Moore, All-American cornerback, who had an interception, and the announcers were like, why do you keep throwing the ball at Leonard Moore? Have you seen this guy? Like, maybe throw the ball somewhere else. But they kept doing it. So, thanks, Frank Reich. I'm glad you're not coaching the Colts anymore. Holy crap.
Williams got some carries, which is huge because he got some more experience. They have a 3-headed dragon. A lot of you haters out there have to understand, now that we figured out how to play defense again, we're at peak. For many of you that don't know this or realize this, what happened, we played to start the CFP last year, we played the number 1 or the number 2 team, number 1 in our hearts, Indiana now. We played Penn State, which was supposed to be the national championship runner-up. I'm not doing this in order. We played Georgia, who's top 3, and we played Ohio State, top 1. So they won the championship. Then to start the season, we played Miami, who was top 10 or top 5 with Carson Beck, right? Then on top of that, we played A&M, who for the most part, before they choked against Texas, was top 4. I mean, you think about all those games. SEC, how many games in a row do you play where you play ranked opponents like that? All right? That's a gauntlet for anybody. And I don't care if you say, well, they had that huge gap. Yeah, we had a hangover because we were playing football in January, meaningful football, while you guys are resting on vacation somewhere. I don't know, Alabama losing to Michigan or something. But to make my point, we were playing there. We come in and we play Miami. Yeah, we lose by 3. Then we lose to Texas A&M, which was a better team than a lot of people predicted.
Well,
We ran
yeah,
a
Coach
gauntlet.
Drew. They're number 3 in the country. A&M's been before they lost to Texas over the weekend. They're still a CFP team. And the thing to say about Notre Dame is that they dominated Georgia at the line of scrimmage last year. They absolutely did. Yeah, the Notre Dame haters can suck it, basically. I think that Notre Dame's had an upgrade at quarterback this year. You know that if you've been watching the Midwest Blitz. If you don't agree, then you don't know ball. But, change quarterbacks, change defensive coordinators, all this stuff. Notre Dame definitely deserves to be in the CFP right now. I'm an observer of that. As an Indiana fan, they beat us last year. I'm not agreeing with any of this Miami talk that Miami should be in above Notre Dame after they lost to 2 unranked teams. Dude, Notre Dame's a force to be reckoned with right now. I was highly critical of Chris Ash at the beginning of the year. As you guys know, if you've been watching the Midwest Blitz, Notre Dame is nothing to fuss with right now. I was going to say it like NWA used to say, nothing to F with, but we'll keep it clean right now because it's the holiday weekend. Yeah, Notre Dame is loaded for bear going into the CFP right now. They're more or less healthy. I know they lost a starting offensive lineman or 2 earlier in the year, but they've still been able to run the ball. And the same thing happened last year, and they made it to the championship game. They dominated Penn State. Well, not dominated Penn State's line of scrimmage last year in the playoffs, but they did well enough to win, even when Penn State had Abdul Carter and them dudes. That was a nasty defensive front that Penn State had last year. So Notre Dame is tough right now. Even though they played the Stanford tree or whatever they call them. You're the Cardinal. Are you the only Cardinal? What about the St. Louis Cardinals? What about the Ball State Cardinals? What about all the other Cardinals, Stanford? But you're not the Cardinals, plural. You're the Cardinal, singular. You're the
That's
tree.
why I had to put a tree up.
Yeah, you're the tree. Ooh, we move on to the Mid-American Conference, Coach Drew.
Yeah, we could talk about it. Any interesting games that happen or who's playing in the championship? That's another good question.
So over the weekend, the Miami Redhawks took down my father's Ball State Cardinals 45-24, and the Western Michigan Broncos, my best friend from high school, played at Western Michigan, is a Bronco. They took down Eastern Michigan 31-21, did the Western Michigan Broncos versus the Eastern Michigan Eagles. So the MAC championship game is set. It'll be Miami versus Western Michigan at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. Redhawks versus Broncos. Shout out to Western Michigan, who exceeded expectations in the MAC. Miami makes a return to the championship game. We will be following this on Midwest Blitz as we love the MAC conference. And we hope they can figure out some NIL stuff to retain coaches, players, etc. But we love Midwest and mid-major football here on the program.
Yeah, we don't want to say it, but unfortunately right now it seems like even in the AAC, it's like the minor leagues to a lot of these other places, as a lot of the coaches got poached for SEC jobs. We've seen it with the MAC. Some of their coaches get poached for Big Ten jobs. So Hopefully the Mid-American Conference can figure that out. With NIU leaving, it doesn't hurt. It's not going to hurt their brand. They'll probably save some money on gas, allegedly, but I'm going to leave it at that. It's going to be a fun time, though. I think this is the time when we say a good Midwest goodbye.
Coach Drew, are we going to host a live chat party for the Big Ten Championship game?
I think we are. We're going to host the game of the weekend, for us at least. It's going to be Ohio State against Indiana in the Big Ten Championship in Indianapolis. We will be hosting that on the Rate Game app live, where you can come in and chat with us. It's a non-gambling app. And we might also go live on TikTok together, because we'll be together for that game. How about that? We're not going to be biased, we promise. We might be wearing biased colors. Well, we'll give you a hint. We're wearing red.
Yeah, we will be wearing red, Coach Drew. It sounds like the beginning of a Midwest goodbye.
Yes, a very good Midwest goodbye. The best, the final Midwest goodbye of
The
your
regular
2025
season.
not to reflect on.
What a
We did it.
season. What a season, Coach Drew. And so fun to connect with the fans this year. That was honestly the thing that I didn't realize was going to be fun, was all the people we've gotten to talk to and meet throughout the season. I think that's the real blessing of this whole process this is our first year as a college football podcast. It won't be our last. We've got big plans for next year. We're going to go on campus and we're going to do a lot of stuff. But I think I speak for Coach Drew and myself that we're humbled that people actually listen to us talk about football. And it's not that you're listening to us. We want you involved in the conversation. And a lot of you guys have become involved in the conversation one way or another. And it's, that really is the mission, is we want to talk about football in a way that fans of the game and fans of the teams enjoy listening to it and feel like we're being fair. Indiana is my favorite team. I enjoyed decades of horrible IU football, always hoping they would be good one day. And now they are good. And so now we get to talk to Ohio State fans about that. I'm sure they disagree with me that Indiana has a chance to win this game next week. Just like Coach Drew gets to talk to Notre Dame haters and, make jokes about how Notre Dame isn't going to make the CFP, even though they are. But what a good time it's been just to connect with other fans and talk to people. And once we've gotten to the point where people actually enjoy the show a little bit and talk to us, and we're like, hey, we're not just talking into the ether. There are football fans that enjoy not listening to ESPN and listening to biased people. The TV networks, Coach Drew, if you go from one channel to the other, some of them are promoting some teams and demoting other teams. We don't really do that. We do poke a little fun at the SEC and we poke a little fun at ESPN here, but we don't deny that Oklahoma or Alabama or Georgia or Texas A&M are very good teams. Those are just not the teams that we cover, but I think it's fun to get the feedback from fans and promote a situation where fans' thoughts and honest opinions are taken into the equation.
Yeah, I think it's been a great season. A lot to reflect on. Like you said, huge things are coming. I think we met a lot of great fans. I think we've been non-biased. For many of you guys that didn't know this or do know this, if you do know this, don't know this, when we did our first college football playoff rankings, I didn't have Notre Dame in it. But the committee said it otherwise. That was me being non-biased. I've been very truthful the whole time I've been on this podcast. Sometimes too truthful, and that hurt some quarterbacks' feelings. But, again, it's interesting, I learned a lot about a lot of fan bases. Sometimes, if you're at this point in the Midwest Blitz, sometimes you don't even listen to this part. So I'm just going to air it out. Sometimes when you say that a team is going to play another team, that's football. I'm sorry. You just can't get upset that we say this team may do this or do that. Okay? Also, when you're paying somebody X amount of dollars to do something they underperform, you can't get mad at me for criticizing that. There's a lot of little things that I found funny with a lot of these different teams. And I hope next year we could discover some new fan bases by these upcoming programs.
And we plan to expand out and try to connect more with more different fan bases. This was our first year, so we were in a trial and error period, as we expect to always be, but we want to improve the coverage for you, the fans. I picked Indiana to go 9-3 this year. They're 12-0. So again, we weren't biased based on the teams that we root for. We really did give you our best attempt at telling you who was going to win and lose. I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
Absolutely. We appreciate everybody. It's not over yet. We have 12 teams to cover. Really happy. So that's at least 12 games we got to cover. We got this weekend's matchups. We'll probably do something for the Army-Navy game, try to fill you in.
We're 100%. We're 100% covering Army-Navy, the Army-Navy week. We have fan letters coming from graduates of the Naval Academy and the Military Academy at West Point. I have family that graduated from West Point, so we got fan letters from that, which will be absolutely fucking epic. If you've ever talked to West Point cadet or a midshipman, they definitely talk a lot of trash about each other, although they love each other like brothers and sisters. That's going to be a real good time. We're going to cover every college football playoff game and every bowl game for the MAC and the Big Ten. Coach Drew, the bowl season's been diminished by the networks because they wanted to promote the college football playoff that they were devising years and years ago. This all started. What's better at Christmas and New Year's time than getting to see your team play one last game? To me, nothing. As an Indiana fan, I was happy in the past if my team just had a game to play. So we're going to have fun with all that. We're going to show respect to all your teams, including the MAC teams that we followed all season long. We'll do a better job of covering the MAC next year, but yeah, it's been a great time, and it's going to be a great time during the holidays having you guys here on the Midwest Blitz.
We're also going to update you guys our favorite players at each position of the 33 teams we covered. So best quarterbacks, wide receivers, etc., etc.
The all Midwest Blitz team, Coach Drew.
Yep. And then we're also going to break down with you guys draft prospects. So that's also going to be fun too. We're going to bridge the gap. I've been watching some of you NFL guys. Nothing to knock you. Listen, I unfortunately do both because I do fantasy football. But some of you guys saw about some of these college guys. I'll say it's a little edgy. I saw somebody talking about Styles and was explaining to me what he does. And he's like, wow, this guy's pretty good. And I'm like, well, if you just freaking turn on the Midwest Blitz for 1 week, you know he's good. It's like, I get it. You're the NFL, but like even MLB podcasts, they talk about the minor leagues in college. But hey, you know what? It is what it is. We're all talking football. We're all having fun. It's the holidays. Have fun. Stay warm. Very warm.
Well, okay. Here's something I always think about come March Madness time, and I love Charles Barkley and Kenny the Jet Smith, and those guys cover the NBA. So when it gets March Madness time and they're your studio analysts, they haven't been watching these college players. It's just, you can't ask. For one thing, there's so many teams across different leagues, whether it's baseball, basketball, football. Nobody can really watch all these games, but the players that we break down, we have been watching them all year. We're going to give you Pro Football Focus stats and all these other things that we've been using all year to predict the games, to do NFL draft stock on all the players in the MAC, the Big Ten, and Notre Dame, maybe a few other players, Coach Drew. Anything else that I can do to drag out this Midwest goodbye longer than possible after a long Thanksgiving weekend? I know people have to go to work tomorrow.
Yep, some people have to teach like I do. I will say, for all you people that keep crying about the college football playoffs, I appreciate you guys. College football invitational. You know what? I told Big Nick this earlier. I said, why don't we have 4 separate college football playoffs? We have an ACC, a Big Ten, an SEC, and a Big 12. They all play in their own conferences, so they're in-house. They all play each other. Maybe they take the top 6, top 8. It's up to them, right? And each individual one, we just crown national champions.
You want to do like
guess what?
Go ahead.
Because guess what? That's 4 national champions, guys. We only crown one national champion each year.
Yeah.
What about 4?
Coach Drew,
Big brain.
some of these people want to, at the end of the college football season, they want to have every team from their conference, the SEC. They want to have like every team from their conference involved in a national championship playoff. It's not college basketball. Everybody can't replay everything. You had your chance to play. The conferences, the Big Ten, SEC, and ACC in particular, are overgrown to a point where there is no fair strength of schedule. You know why it's called the Big Ten, Coach Drew? Because there used to be 10 teams in it, and everybody played each other. And then the SEC, that went out the window before it did with the Big Ten, but it's tomato there. So you want every team that's half-ass worth of shit to be in the college football playoff. That is not going to happen. But we've allowed the television contracts to expand the conferences to a point where you can't crown a true conference champion. And now some people want to cry about it. Well, that's college football now.
Last year, their arm got twisted because they said only the 4 teams that win their respective conferences will get a bye. And then they're like, well, what about that one P5? Well, the P5 can get in over a P4 because blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the thing. They bend and break there. Now this year, they're dealing with a couple teams that are getting in the last couple spots. That's sports. That's sports in a nutshell. You watch any professional sport, like, if your team in football is 8-9 or 9-8, 9-8, because that's a positive, and they're 9-8, they don't make the playoffs, what? Do they just award them a playoff slot and be like, you know what? You guys had a winning season. You're above 500.
Right.
Here you go. How about you deal with the time you had? It's like Texas. Oh, Texas, we should be in the college football playoffs. You lost to Florida. Miami. Oh, well, we beat Notre Dame head-to-head, and then we choked in our own conference 2-2. If you win your damn conference, you don't even have to worry about Notre Dame. Now you lost 2 games, and you thought that was okay, and now you're crying at Notre Dame. Yeah, Notre Dame's only lost to Texas A&M, and we're not comparing quality losses. But grow a pair, Jesus. That's why I'm over here saying if Notre Dame doesn't make it and they give it to Miami, so what? I get it. Head-to-head, respect that. Shake your hand, we're moving on. But here's the thing. You could have won your conference, right? That's why you're in a conference.
You could have not lost to SMU, who was unranked. Well, Drew, it's called integrity. That's what we have here on the Midwest Blitz. Maybe we're self-glossing a little bit too much. But yeah, neither one of us has advocated for our teams that we like to have anything that they haven't earned or don't deserve. CC.
Yeah, let's just invite Alabama needs to be in there because they lost to FSU, who was a good team for like a second. Yeah, they were a good team because they beat you, dumbass. That's why everybody thought FSU was back.
Last question,
Jeez.
Coach. Sure, I got a question for you.
Yeah, good.
Alabama at 10 will play Georgia, who will be ranked 3rd this week in the college football playoff. If Alabama loses, do you think that they'll be out? Because 10 is the cut line, America, if you guys haven't been following us. Because of the Power 5 top conference champions get in. If you don't know that by now, you're not listening anymore. So if Alabama loses to Georgia, because Bama will be 10 again this week, should Alabama be out? And will they be out? Should they? Will they?
Very interesting. Well, according to the All-State College Football Playoff Predictor, puts them at 65%. So they're a bubble team for sure. They got to beat Georgia. If they beat Georgia, they're 100% in. If they lose to Georgia, I can see how that could be a problem.
I predict Bama will beat Georgia just because of the fact that they have more on the line. And if you follow sports as long as I have, that's what happens in a one-game playoff scenario. When one team has everything on the line, they tend to come out on top, and the other team will be more conservative in game plan and whatnot. Not saying that Georgia's going to throw the game or anything like that, but that's just how it seems to work.
Well, yeah, they got to keep it close. If they don't keep it close, I mean, that's their college football playoff game. It's the same thing with Ohio State versus Indiana. A lot of these teams are upset because a lot of these teams play this extra game and they can still be penalized, you know? Now they're like, well, if Alabama doesn't play in the SEC championship, all right, and they lose, does that mean they're eliminated?
We got Bama, Georgia in the SEC. Dude, it's going to be a fun conference championship game week. It's going to be a fun Army-Navy week here pretty soon. We're going to send you...
Alabama loses, Miami jumps them?
I think that's very possible.
We got a storm coming. Nick Saban's going to be like this.
God.
My team played in a championship game, and now they can't be in the college football playoffs. Why do we play these games? I said this last year. I've said this multiple times. I don't know how many times. Yeah, the cut line for losses in a season is 2. Anything past 2, you're gone.
Well,
don't matter who you are or who you play.
If you lose in a conference championship game, I feel like there's some
before
flexibility.
that.
Okay, yeah. We'll see. Well, gosh, yeah, Bama being at 10, there's a lot of drama that could happen. Bama's going to beat Georgia. I'm looking at the big board here, America. Bama probably beats Georgia. They're both in. And then you get the Big 12 conference champion. That's 1. And then you get a G5. I don't think an ACC team's getting in. I don't think they are.
You heard it here first.
I really don't. I'm looking at it. How would a top 5 conference champion come out of the ACC right now? It could happen, but
Alabama loses to Georgia. I think Miami gets in.
Georgia Tech is out. You're going to have SMU and Virginia, I believe, in the ACC. That's going to be like number 18 versus number 21. Tulane beat Charlotte.
Well, you got Duke versus Virginia in the championship.
Duke versus Virginia.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, it's been a hell of a Midwest. Goodbye, America. We'll see you.
It's Coach Drew signing off.
Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. We'll see you next week. We'll see you later this week, actually.
Yep, absolutely.
See ya.